planning is not about control, it's about clarity. And clarity comes from creating space to see what's actually going on. It's in your relationships, your work, and yourself.
Welcome to Life, Business, and Everything in Between, the podcast for small business owners, creatives, and entrepreneurs navigating the space between big dreams and everyday chaos. I am Leslie Shields, a longtime entrepreneur married to another crazy entrepreneur and raising a tiny human in the middle of it all. This show brings you real conversations, honest insights, and practical encouragement to help you keep going. Whether you're building a brand, pivoting through change, or just trying to lead yourself, well, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Hi, and welcome to Life, Business, and Everything in Between. This episode is my first solo episode, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about 2026 and planning and goals, where vision meets real life. Planning with intention for your relationships, work, and you. Planning isn't about control for me anymore. It's become about creating space to see what's actually going on in my life. And I have sat down and done some kind of planning at least for 10 years. In January, sometimes early February, our busy season runs until mid-January. So sometimes I can't get enough clear headspace until a little bit later. But I'm always sitting down and doing some kind of goals and planning. And when I say planning, I don't really just mean like calendars or revenue goals or where you want to be for the year. My planning has evolved over the years. And so this planning is really about how I'm showing up in my relationships, how I'm showing up for the life I want. I've done all kinds of classes and courses and kind of taken bits and pieces from different things. Last year, our family used the Big Jesse Itzler calendar, the big ass calendar. We found that we are really digital people. And so we had a hard time like going and putting it up on the calendar on the wall. I've bought a planner many years in a row. I'll use it for a couple of weeks and then I'm back onto my digital. And so I think that whatever method you're choosing needs to work for you. And mine has been sitting down, writing it down, having it somewhere to review, having it working on it digitally, having it in multiple mediums. And that way it's available to me where I am at that time. And how I lead and how I make decisions in my business and how I take care of myself all culminates in kind of this beginning of the year planning and then in check-ins through the rest of the year. Because I think that planning can look different for each of us in different places. And for me, if I skip the planning, I feel all over the place. And we know statistically that writing goals down and things that you want to do in your life down, it's a significantly higher chance of it happening. And so today we want to talk about what planning looks like in real life and not the perfect version. Some people maybe buy the $100 planner. To me, for those planners, I felt like I finally figured out why I wasn't being successful at them. And I would try and buy them. I'd sit down and do them, and they never worked for me. And then I figured out that they're really an arts and crafts project. And that's okay. If that's how you can get creative and put your ideas down on a paper, fantastic. I am not an artsy crafty person. And so I found that it wasn't working for me. And I had a lot of pressure on myself to make it work. And once I let that go and realized that everybody's going to plan in a different way, I was able to be much more successful in my planning. And so we're going to break this up into 3 different parts. We're going to talk about planning with your partner and in relationships, planning for your business, and then planning for yourself. And so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about planning for relationships. So Chris is my husband. He owns a business. I own a business. We're both entrepreneurs, and we have a 5-year-old boy. So there's a lot going on in our lives. There's 2 businesses, and then on any given day, sprinkling, some additional visionary projects and where we have our heads at and what we're working on, as well as, raising a tiny human. And so for us, we did this before Harrison too, is we would sit down and talk about have really intentional conversations about what we want to do for the year. And we've done it a few different ways. I've done a hotel down the street and stayed overnight and used sticky notes all over the wall right, in a hotel room and kind of working in different categories and sharing with each other what our personal goals are, what our business goals are, what our family goals are, our relationship goals. And we've done where we went out of town for a couple of days, and we really like to do Eureka Springs in Arkansas for New Year's. It's a very energetic place, and it's been a really good environment for us to connect with each other and then connect to kind of our goals and our vision. And then this year we went to the Texas A&M playoff game the weekend before Christmas, and we used our grandparents' babysitter card then. And now we're going to go on an adults trip next week. So we also used a grandparents' babysitter card. And if you're a parent, you only get so many babysitting cards. So we were kind of out of those this year, but we did take an afternoon where we had, my cousin came over and watched Harrison and hung out with him for a few hours, so we could at least get some of the big ideas and some big conversations started. And then what we did is we put on the calendar for every Friday an hour coffee. And so we're going to keep working on those goals, probably be continuing to share and build those goals over the next month, but then really keep that time on the calendar to hold sacred as a place for us to connect and talk and what's going on in the business, what's going on in life, what do we need, where are we on updates on the goals too, right? So we've done it where we've done vision boards. Like I said, we did the Post-it note thing. We've cut out of magazines, and we plan in different categories. So like, is that family, business, finances, health, and then lifestyle, and the things that we want, the way we want those to look. And the magic in planning with your partner is about the conversations. It's about holding that space to have those conversations with some intentionality behind it. And so it's a driver for the well-planned life, right? And I don't mean well-planned as like, I got to be in control, we're doing this, this, and this. But, I think unless you set aside some time to decide the things that you want and to put them on the calendar, or the things that you want to work towards, some goals, maybe you have to save up for a vacation before you can put it on the calendar, then they don't happen. And if you're as busy as I am, what happens is we just keep walking and spinning and moving in circles and getting it done. And then you get to the end of the year and you're like, what did I just do? So I think it's the space to talk about what we're building and why. And I will tell you, last year we did this trip. We went to Eureka Springs. We had 3 nights, and we ended up, which was the point, the goal, and so much fun. But instead of like doing our intentional planning, we had some friends meet us, which we loved and had a glorious time. But it was a different trip. And so because we didn't have that intentional planning time, I swear throughout the whole year, it was so hard for us to get on the same page. And it's like we were playing catch up because we didn't set aside that space to talk about what mattered and what we wanted to do and where we were at, and kind of like holding the box to be vulnerable. And so because we didn't do that, it was a year of just misses, right? We just didn't know where the other one was. It was a low communication year, and one that we learned, and it came up multiple times that, okay, we didn't do our talk, we didn't do our planning, right? And of course it needs to happen more than just once a year, but for us, this big set aside time has always led us in the right direction throughout the rest of the year. And so just especially with entrepreneurs, or even if your spouse has, got a corporate job, learning what they want to do. Do they want to stay in their corporate job? Do they want to find another one? Do they want to excel in leadership? What's important to them? Are they overworked, overstressed, and need to do something else? And I think it's hard to have those conversations, but creating intentional time with, for us, a little structure okay, here's how we're going to do it this year, like allows us to open up. And this year we actually used, Mel Robbins has a PDF that she has an episode, and then she has a PDF that you can download on her website that'll walk you through really the last year. So the planning, we use Mel Robbins' goal. And what she has you do in this guide is go back through the year and talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And I think that that exercise really helped us see where were we at, what we had accomplished. So what we had accomplished over the last year, and what life we lived, and not just like, oh, the good stuff, but I mean, we had several really close deaths last year, and that was some extra focused family time that was the season of life we were in last year. And so I think that by reviewing, you're able to see what worked, what didn't. And he's actually already like finished the next section of his, and I'm behind, but the next section is start, stop, continue. And by taking a look at what worked, you're able to see what you want to start, what you want to stop, and what you want to keep doing.
A quick thank you to our sponsor, The Shields Agency. The Shields Agency is the insurance agency behind this podcast and the work I do every day. We support entrepreneurs, small businesses, and independent contractors with health insurance and benefits. But more importantly, we help people make intentional decisions during busy seasons of life. We work with founders and growing teams who want benefits that support real humans, retention, and long-term sustainability, not just checking a box. Our approach is consultative and educational because no two businesses or families look the same. If you're ready for a more thoughtful approach to insurance and benefits, the Shields Agency would love to support you. And now, back to life, business, and everything in between.
All right. So the next part about intentional planning and goal setting that I want to talk to you guys about is how I do it in my work. And so I would say that I have the same mindset on how I plan our goals and our vision for the company that I do for myself. It's really about where we want to show up. There are numbers, especially with the company and metrics, but for me, I do it with my core team, and it's not rigid or overly structured. It may be kind of just chatting about, again, reviewing the year before, how it went, what worked, where we need processes, what processes we want to work on before our next busy season. We whiteboard, we brainstorm, we let ideas exist without immediately organizing or defending them, because I want people to be able to feel safe in sharing ideas. And I don't want the goal planning and the vision planning for the year to be all about what I want. I think taking in, especially the C-level teams, feedback and thoughts and where they're at and what they want. And so we've always done it with just like my director of ops and my agency manager in the past. And so we're going to do that again this year. But then I want to plan secondary sessions to go over it with each department manager and where are their goals and what do they want for themselves, for the company, and kind of setting it up in that way. And we've done it in different ways over the last few years. Some years we've done it better than others. But it really gives people an idea to, I think kind of like I call it a peek behind the curtain to see how decisions are formed and not just handed down from, top down, right? I think especially as a small business, getting everybody to brainstorm, plan, and discuss vision together helps everybody work through the funnel for one goal, or support each other in everybody's individual goals. And I think my role isn't necessarily to come in with all the answers. It's about creating space. And when planning feels like that, it creates ownership and buy-in and clarity without burnout. And people feel like they are building something together and not just executing tasks. And I think that that's what makes working for a small business a lot different, is we want people to know the impact that they have on what they're building and how important that is. We've done it in a couple of different ways. We've done, a couple of times we've rented hotel rooms and maybe a suite where they have a big living room area. Our team often, if we do any things in person, they have to come into town or we go to them. And so we've had that work well in the past too, or we'll have a meeting space. We've done something outside of the office. We've done in the office too, but I really like to get out of the office. And I think people's brains and focus changes a little bit when you can get out of your normal workspace. And it helps people get focused on planning instead of checking the email all day long and tasking. And so for me, I will also tell you that I've been the person who have taken these goals for the company, and I had huge Post-it notes on the wall in my office. And so I was able to see those things every day. And there have been very few things, both personally and professionally, that I have written down, focused on, and really a lot of that comes from manifestation and keeping things top of mind and knowing where you're going. There have been very few things I have written down that have not happened. Now, they may not happen that particular year, and they may not happen directly on my timeline, but they happen, or they're in the works of happening now. And I'm just a massive, massive believer of putting these things down. I like to have them somewhere where I can see them all the time. And I think we talked about before, whether that's digital, whether it's having it digital and having it written down, whether it's on your wall, on your phone, being able to keep those things top of mind every day, I think makes a huge difference. All right, part 3, self-planning. And self-planning is where I get really honest. And I don't want to start with one big goal. I will start by looking at my life in different sections and asking, what do I actually need right now? And in a really holistic way, and not I want to lose 20 pounds kind of way. For my health, my goals aren't about losing weight or checking a box. They're about feeling better in my body. I think, to be honest, it started out as, I need to lose 20 pounds, and that goes on the list. But what it turned into was a health journey, right? And so the health journey, why couldn't I lose the weight I wanted to? Why was I feeling bad? Let's figure that out. And so taking the bigger, not that I would just want to lose 20 pounds, the bigger vision of the health goal and using that in my planning is kind of what I'm trying to share with you guys, is that looking at your goal setting and your planning from a holistic point of view is all about supporting living the better life, right? And creating synergy and balance in the different areas of your life. So this year for me, I'm working on my endocrine and my hormone system with a really great practitioner. And I'm trying to understand the root causes of things instead of just pushing myself harder, instead of just working out and lifting more. And y'all, I'm over 40. I cannot lift the big weights because I just destroyed my body every time I did. And so I had to figure out why, right? Why I couldn't do that. And so now I've stepped back and kind of returned to some practices that I had health-wise that I'd had in the past. I'm doing my bar class. It's strong, it's movement, it's gentler. It's where I need to be. It's what my body's asking for at the moment. And so looking at that part, what does my body need? And that helps me to come up with my goals for this year. Another big area of our life that we like to plan in, and that I like to plan in, is travel. And at some point over the last 2 years, I had been really craving some big international travel. Harrison had a passport, he hadn't used it, and I was starting to beat myself up about not having done this thing that I wanted to do. And when Chris and I sat down to review last year, like we talked about when we were doing our kind of our relationship planning and our family planning, we realized we took 16 different trips. And some of those were quick, like camping weekends, and some of them were 2-week stays. And it showed me that we weren't lacking travel. So I thought I was failing on this goal that I wanted, right? And it showed me that we weren't lacking travel. It just looked different. And I think that is a level of acceptance for me that we're in a different season of life. And the things that we go and do are things as a family bring us all joy, including Harrison, right? And so our travel just looks different. And I don't know that I know I wouldn't have seen that without sitting down and doing some intentional review over last year and then thinking about what we wanted that to look like this year. But I will also say that while that international travel wasn't happening. I wanted to do Costa Rica. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. While it wasn't happening there, it is happening. The universe brought me an opportunity that we're all going to go to Ireland as a family. We're taking Harrison, Chris, my dad, we're all going. And so I think that a lot of this work, right, the planning, the reviewing, the looking, also allows us to step back and sometimes get out of our own way, right? What is the universe providing us that is meeting those needs, but possibly in a different way? I think it's easy to get frustrated and say, well, I've done the planning. It never works for me. But maybe opening your mind a little bit and thinking about what has happened and what life you have lived in the last year, where were those boxes checked, but possibly in a way that you didn't know you needed, in a way that might have been better. And not everything is going to be good, right? And I am a firm believer that it's yin and yang, right? Like things are balanced. And you can have a really tragic moment that is also comes with some brightness. Or maybe you got to experience something in spite of and can learn a lot from that. So I think that the personal planning is, where am I? What do I want to see for the next year? But also reviewing what's happened and how maybe those goals were met in a way that I didn't realize over the past 12 months, or the past 2 years. And for me, and when I'm sitting down and doing some of the personal wants, needs, goals, and planning, I know that I want to grow several. And I say this and I point this out because I think that we have a tendency to take our planning and say, I want to achieve. And I want to grow. I want to do this. I want to do that. And for me, I've realized that I did some vision boarding. I went to a little class a friend had, and we all sat down and did some vision boarding. And then I'm also, working with Chris on other stuff, and I'm sitting down and doing my own. I noticed a theme, whether I knew it was coming up or not, is I needed to slow down. And I need time to be able to sit, to read, to garden, to be present with my little guy, who keeps getting bigger. Even though I keep asking him to stop growing, he says, Mommy, I can't do that. That's what humans do. We get bigger. I'm like, okay, well, if you could just figure that out and stay little forever, that would be great. But I think that what supports that, and part of the reason that slowing down is showing up for me, and somebody told me this yesterday, I was telling her, I feel like I don't want to do anything. I feel like I just want to sit in the sun. I feel like I want to rest. And I know I have things I want to work on. And she said to me, especially, entrepreneurs, she said, you're being a visionary. Visionaries need space and time to clear the everyday out of their heads and be able to think, right? I always feel like I need room and space to breathe and think and be. And if I can just be for a minute, then the other pieces kind of come into place. And so I have some other projects that I've got my fingers and toes in, and I'm trying really intentionally to carve out some of that space, which can be an interesting feeling when you've, hustled for years to put on the calendar, I'm blocking this 2 weeks. I'm not doing any of that. And so I think that coming to that, okay, I'm being a visionary. Okay, that's what's happening here. Okay, that's what my body is saying that I need right now. My business needs that. We all need that. Is being intentional with our time. For me, I need space to be a visionary. I need a little bit slower season. You might be in a grind season. You may have some numbers that you need to hit, and you're going to take that planning however works best for you and line out what are you going to do to hit those goals, right? And looking at your holistic planning and saying, how do I plan my work so it supports my life? How does my life support my work? How are we putting all the pieces together? We're letting ambition and softness coexist. That's for me this year. It's ambition and softness coexisting. All right, so let's talk about some practical ways to do this. We've mentioned a few different ways throughout the podcast about how I've done some of this planning in the past and what's worked best for me. And so I'll just tell you guys again, if you're wondering how to actually do it, it doesn't have to be complicated. If a vision board feels right, if you want to sit and cut out things and glue it, and that's something you enjoy, absolutely. If you just want to write some things down on a paper, I did the huge Post-it notes last year and stuck them on my wall. Whatever feels right for you. Say you're so busy you can't even see straight, but you've got 20 minutes in the carpool line. Do it on your phone. Just jot it down. What are you wanting? And some years you're gonna find that the planning is more extensive than others, and sometimes you're just gonna get it down. But I am telling you, get it down. Get it down somewhere, because there's such a higher percentage chance of those things actually happening if you're paying attention and you've got it out in the universe. So you can do it by yourself. If you aren't in a relationship and you don't have a partner, do it with friends. Sometimes I find that just being able to share what's on your list, whether that person has to be an active participant, obviously in a relationship or a marriage, that those things are things you're doing together. I don't think that you have to obviously be in a relationship to be able to sit down and share your goals with somebody. Being able to speak through it and chat through it can make a big difference as well. It also makes it more fun, right? Do a bottle of wine, have a great time over coffee, and come up with some of those. You can even bounce those ideas off each other. I also mentioned the Mel Robbins PDF guide. Go download that. I printed it on my home printer. It was a lot of ink. I might recommend you print that somewhere else. But it's a really easy guide. Like it lets you walk through your phone to look at the last year, and it asks you some pretty basic questions. So nothing really overwhelming. All right, so here it is. Here's a stat. I've been saying you're much more likely. For you concrete people out there, there's a stat that says you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals by writing them down. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to exist outside your head. All right. So we have talked about three different kind of areas of your life that you can do the planning with a partner, in a marriage. We can take those same things, like I said, not as involved, and work through it with friends, for your business, for your career, where you're at and what you want to achieve in that funnel of your life. And then personally, what's important to you, your health goals, your health journey, your relationships, maybe some boundaries you want to set for yourself. So really three main areas that you can do some vision planning, goal setting in your life. And the one thing I'll leave you guys with is planning is not about control. And this was something it took me a while to learn. Planning is not about control. It's about clarity. And clarity comes from creating space to see what's actually going on. It's in your relationships, your work, and yourself. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need an honest one. Thanks, guys, for being with us here today on life, business, and everything in between, and for bearing with me during my first solo episode, first solo episode. But I'm pretty passionate about this area. If you guys have questions, as always, please reach out to me. I'm happy to share. Happy to share with things that have worked and be a sounding board of something you want to see if it's a good idea or whatever. I'm not the expert by any means, but I am pretty good at talking through stuff. And so again, thanks for being here today, and happy 2026 goal and vision planning.
Thank you for tuning in to Life, Business, and Everything in Between. If today's episode gave you something to think about or made you feel less alone in the hustle, we'd love it if you follow the show and share it with a friend. Real stories, real talk, and just enough chaos to keep it interesting. See you next time.